Thank you for tuning in. This is Kingdom Wisdom Season 2 with me, your host, Phoebes. So, before we get into it, I just want to invite us to follow, like, share, rate, and leave that comment in the comment section across all our social media platforms, now inclusive of YouTube and TikTok. And today I'm joined by Angie Seitei, a training and development specialist, is in our midst. Auntie Angie, how are you?
I'm well, Phoebe, and how are you?
I am well, thank you. I'm sure everyone is wondering what training and development specialist does, what your role entails.
Wow, when a person talks about skills and development, what comes to one's mind is the learning and capacity building in terms of different sets of skills that people in need of, especially when we're looking into the economy of South Africa or in other parts of South Africa or other parts of Africa. So what I actually do, Phoebe, I'm an analyst who determine the outcome of learning for skills development programs and purposes within different institutions. But currently, I'm still under the government, and that is the work that I'm doing. Also, core competencies or the duty that I am doing as a skills and development training specialist, as some call it, is to coordinate plan skills development intervention in the organization. And we are also responsible for development of organizational training and development plans. We provide information and advices regarding skills development related issues. We conduct and develop administration in organization and establish maybe committees that are responsible to ensure that the employees in different institutions are given a fair chance of being transformed from the colonial mindset to be able to penetrate the economic landscape of South Africa. And lastly, we, as the skills development practitioner or specialist, we are also responsible for the future growth of any organization, as we are the ones who are responsible to build the resilience as we experience changes in different parts of the world, where when we look into the era that we are in now, we are in the era of fourth industrial revolution, where technology takes over from the hard labor or human labor that we call it. So if we are not upping our games to really develop our people in terms of taking them to trainings that are relevant for their organization strategies, taking them to trainings that are relevant to the vision and mission of their organization. It means that if that does not happen, if we don't have the SDF who are responsible to make sure that people are being trained and being educated in line with what the economy needs and what their organization are earmarking to achieve, then it means that the future and the growth of those organizations is very dim. That is the responsibility that I'm doing. I'm actually about human development, human emancipation through information and through knowledge. As we know that we have different types of vocational trainings and the traditional trainings that we normally know of as of the universities, the technicals. But as for us as the SDF, we are focusing on employees and employers' development within their institutions to make sure that they are trained and they acquire qualifications that are relevant to take them to the higher heights.
Wow, like that is a mouthful of knowledge. That is so interesting. I
Yeah.
never knew that work
Mm,
entails so much and how important it is in our economy today,
mm,
especially after COVID. Wow. So,
mm.
what mindset should a person that is trying to start a business have?
You know, as a believer, a child of God, and I believe, Phoebe, that all of us, we are born out of our God's own love and grace and mercy. Everything that I'm going to be sharing with the people of God today, young people, wherever they are and wherever they will listen this podcast, I will honestly base my answers on the biblical principles, because it is where we take our image from, it is where we take our footprints from, it is where our blueprints of life, we are following it from. So in answering that question, I want to say Jesus Christ called us to work, Phoebe, and he called us to work in this world. And the nice part about how God called us, it is that it's different. And I was saying to somebody that I could imagine if we were the same doctors in the whole world, what will this world look like? But because he has apportioned us every responsibility, he has given us even the capacity to execute whatever that he has planted inside of us. Therefore, business world is not a foreign to the kingdom of God. Business world is actually a born thing from the kingdom of God. It is an inheritance that even Jesus Christ lived it, and he lived that business. He executed his business on this world successfully. And when we look into how he called us to work, and the purpose of business is to work. And God has his thoughts about us, and he made us. And as he made us, out of the very same thought, me and you and many other Christians and other those that have not yet received the Lord, they were made out of the idea of God. So this means that everything that we see, that we touch, that we smell is born out of a thought of somebody. It is born out of an idea somewhere that this person has to see it as a vision that can become a propeller for them to start a stream or to fall in up a particular sector. So what I'm saying to a young person, when you want to start a business, a young person needs to know that you have a seed inside of you. And that seed, it might be the seed of an idea of a business that you have to pursue. And in pursuing it, you are saving people with the same idea that it has been embedded inside of you. So therefore, as a young person, you need therefore to understand the mandate of an area that you need to dominate in the business sector. You don't just wake up in the morning and just go and start a business. No, it has to be a persuasion. It has to be something that you know that you are a born person who has to take over in that particular area of domain. And business is one of the domains that God has given us on this earth. If someone's domain is the education, if someone's domain is being a policeman, then therefore it means that there is an idea that God saw it fitting that it has to be converted into a business opportunity. So you need to be clear as a young person. You need to be deliberate in your action, in which area of business you want to go into. And importantly, you need to know that when you have an idea that you want to pursue and start a particular stream of revenue, or to start a particular business to run, that idea must solve a problem. Because you cannot have just an idea that does not have any meaningful or value that it will contribute to the society. The idea must solve a particular problem. And in making a difference in many people's life through the idea that you have inserted and that you have followed through, that you have passionately refurbished and nourished and researched, therefore, in the process, that idea will also become a living for you. I remember there is a scripture that says that man's gift prepare a table before the great. So it means that your idea can also be a mouth feed to your family, can be also a mouth feed to you. So Jesus Christ defined his ministry on earth as business. And how you define yourself will also determine how far you can reach as a young person. So in an essence, what I'm actually saying, that there is an idea that probably you have, but that idea needs to be refurbished. That idea needs to be renourished. That idea needs to be polished. But importantly, that idea must solve a problem and must make a difference and a fundamental change to the livelihood of the people. What idea that you are having is the one that will make you to break the boundaries and probably to really break the limitations. As Jesus Christ one day, he broke the limitation from the bread, and the bread and the fish were multiplied. So whatever that you have inside of you needs to be broken down, needs to feed, needs to serve, and needs to make a difference and a change. That idea is what will make you to become a success and a person of prominence in the sector that God has called you in the business realm.
Wow, that is actually so interesting because in the previous episode, we were just discussing how you need to solve a problem for your community in order to have a functional business. There's always a problem to be solved. So that is so interesting to even bring in that biblical aspect. That's wow.
Yeah.
That being said, what do you think are the common mistakes that most young people make when trying to start a business?
We read a lot of books, we read a lot of motivations, we read a lot of wisdom from other sources in different streams that we have access to. But I want to say, Phoebe, we cannot commonly take everything like it is one size fits all. It is totally not one size fits all. Business is not a recipe. Unfortunately, there's no one who can come and tell you how to cook it, and you will be successful. It is something that to have a vision. It's something that you need to pursue. It's something that is actually your life and breath. It is something that you know that when you don't do it, you are not alive. And if we can take it from that time and from that perspective to say that when a young person needs to go into the business, it's not about you are actually substituting unemployment with business. It doesn't work like that. What we see young people doing these days, they want to substitute that I'm unemployed, and therefore the only way that I can do probably is to get into the business sector. The same challenges that you encounter in life when you are a young person looking for employment is not the same as the challenges that you will encounter when you are entering into the business realm. It is a different industry. It has its own pros, and believe me, if you are not muscled up, especially if your personality it is not in line with the challenges that you will encounter as compared to you being a job seeker, you will not be able to succeed. The mental stability of a young person, the kind of a drive that this young person has, the kind of entrepreneurial mindset that this person has, and the risk that this person is willing to take and is willing to actively participate in it, regardless of what the pros and the cons that brings or comes along with that particular situation. It is the yardstick that measure how will this person be able to survive, because many businesses, Phoebe, are being opened, but not all are sustained, and particularly not all are able to grow, because it is not a trial. Business is not a trial. Business, it is a lifestyle. You have to be consumed by that kind of a lifestyle. You need to always wake up in the thoughts of saying that what is that I need to do in terms of changing humanity and to change and revolutionize how things are being done. And this boils back to the attitude, this boils back to the personality, because you need to account to things that you don't even know that tomorrow you will be able to get them. So it is a risk that you are able to plan for them, you are able to know how to manage the complexity that will come with the business environment. Because honestly, if your mindset is not taken into a place where you say that it is not a trial, it is something that needs to happen, then it means that you will not be able to succeed in the business. And you must be able to be prepared that one day you will fail. But failure in business does not mean that you give up. Failure in business means that you learn, and you learn from your mistake, and you go back to the drawing board, and you continue where you left, and you start to draw a line and be able to move forward and make that entrance into the new markets that you have earmarked to penetrate into it. I want to also say that a business is defined as an organization or enterprise that is engaged in commercial and in industrial or professional activities. So a business therefore refers to the organized effort. So young people, they don't know that when you go into the business sector or the business mainstream, then you need to be having organized effort and be able to put activities that will be able to produce and sell the goods and services at the end of the day, make a profit. So a business is a byproduct of an activity. So you can't be sitting at home and not doing anything every day, building up to the momentum of where you want your business to take you to. So it is a deliberate activities that you need to employ. It is the active plan that you need to put in place and to make sure that you follow through to each and every step that you want to take every day to make sure that that business becomes a formidable business and is able to reach the international height and be able to succeed.
So what I'm hearing is that business is not the easy way out. It requires, so firstly, business requires an idea. It requires a plan, and it requires us to be positioned in a selfless mindset, because in selfish mindset, we tend to make a lot of mistakes such as greed. And we think that, you know what, because I'm doing this business, I should have this and this profit. But if I'm having community mindset, I know that every day I'm finding a way to improve my environment. Wow, that is so, yeah.
Yeah. And just to add on what you're saying, Phoebe, I personally believe that how to measure the success of business is depending on the actual vision that you have vis-a-vis the goals and the results that you get. So mastering something is very, very important when you get into the business. You need to master something. You need to excel in that particular area, and you need to become successful in redefining your idea. You need to sharpen it and produce the fruit out of that particular seed so that the idea is having the capacity, the ability, the power to serve it to the world that it needs. So people should not ignore what you have already redefined, what you have already pruned, because it will be the power that will make you to be indispensable, that will make your business to become the chief cornerstone that many businesses will fall into you. So redefining that particular idea and specialize and excel and becoming the successful person in that particular area, it is the fundamental thing that a young person needs to concentrate. You can't be all jack of all trades. You need to specialize, and you need to focus your mind, focus your energy, focus your resources, focus your time, focus everything that you have in your exposure to make sure that your gift is the one that will pave the way for many nations.
Wow. So speaking of businesses, as a young person, where should we start trying to look for funds to start, or where can we go to? Because I don't think everyone has as much access to our loaning, and not everyone has access to a strong financial background that will aid them through the beginning of a business or the starting of a dream that they have.
Yeah, you know, South Africa is a very liberal country. And I'm saying this because we heard stories of young people complaining about high unemployment rate, which I take it as a fact, but we cannot rest on our laurels and just give up in the process and tell ourselves that if I don't get a job, therefore there's nothing and my life is just doomed. We have various institutions that support small, medium, micro enterprises, particularly earmarking development in terms of youth who are in business or who are aspirant to become entrepreneurs in the future. So we have, like I said, different institutions of government. We also have different institutions of corporate that are able to give economic support and other fundamental resources or important information that will be able to help young people's business to grow. We have institutions like the foundations that are able to give grants to small medium enterprises that are youth owned. We also have that are able to give loans, like you were saying, that some people they don't have that access to those loans because of maybe their financial positions. So you can take examples again, like your competitions. We see so many companies making competition that people who are interested in this particular sectors, they can come and apply for a competition, and the competition will be able to give you 100,000 or a couple of rands to be able to start up your business. So we have small business grants, and I know that there are institutions of government that are giving grants, and young people should understand that the grant, it is a part of source of starting capital that you don't need to really pay it back. It's like they build it as a startup tool for young businesses to be able to stand up, be established. And it is important, therefore, for young people to understand these different institutions. Even that we have other NPOs that are able to support small, medium enterprises. It can be through PPE. It can also be through giving them preferential procurement preferences. They can be able to help them in terms of enterprise development. Maybe they are able to buy equipment for them. So there are different dynamics that different institutions are using, depending on those institutions' strategic objectives when they are looking into funding the small, medium enterprises. So as a young person, you need to scan this institution, and if after scanning those institutions and you can see that institution, I'm able to meet their requirements, that institution I'm not able to meet their requirements because maybe my business is not in line with their APP or annual performance plans, or is not even in line with their strategic objectives. Maybe if you look into the other left, that institution can be able to cover maybe aspects of the business that you are doing, and they are able to accommodate your application and be able to give you either a grant, or they are able to give you a loan like STIFA does, with a minimal return in terms of the interest rate. So you need to therefore check the criteria of the entry of those institutions and be able to probably focus your energy on a specific business or activity or an outcome that does not need to be paid back, because we always advise young people that, don't go for higher loans when you start a business. We don't want to start a business with higher debts, and at the end of the day, you don't make any revenue because you have to pay out the debt. Hence, we are always saying to young people, look for other alternatives that will suit the level of your business at that time. And when time allows, as the business becomes sustainable and as the business starts to generate more profits, then you can look into the expansion. And when you look into the expansion, then you can go to these other institutions that are able to fund loans at the very higher amount that you might be requiring at that stage. So those are the important things that you need to observe. And after you have done your observation, make sure that you prepare your application. And importantly, what I have realized, because I'm working in this type of industry where I am also a facilitator for small, medium, micro enterprises, most of young people, they apply to this institution, but their documents are not compliant. They lack compliance. They even submit papers that are not complete. So when an application like that lands in somebody's table, and then they have to evaluate that application, honestly, it tells them about you, that what kind of an attitude of an entrepreneur is this one. Because if you are able to bring papers that are incomplete, it actually says something not good about you as an entrepreneur. So gather appropriate document and complete the application. fill up that application, fill it up with a sober mind, fill it up knowing that you are not the only one who is applying for the funding in those different institutions. So you must be competitive, you must put all your efforts in that application. And after submitting your application, wait for this institution to come back to you within the specified duration that they have alluded in the application, to say that wait for a month, and then after a month, if they don't come back to you, that's when you are able to come back to them and say, I have submitted my application and it seems like there is nothing that is coming in a form of response from that particular donor. And lastly, on this note, Phoebe, it's not only the grant that you can apply for or the competition entering or maybe looking for sponsorship. It is also important that young people who are really serious about entering into the space of business, they train themselves to save money. They train themselves to have an account where they are saying that in the next coming 12 months, I want to leave a job, or in the next coming 12 months, I want to start a particular business. It is very, very important that when you want to do something, you also establish a foundation for yourself as well. Because I was saying to one person that, when you are showing the zeal that I have had 1,000 rand and I have been putting a 500 aside so that after 6 months I'm able to do 1, 2, 3 as I am establishing my business. It makes a person who is adjudicating your application to say that at least there is a commitment. You also have put something on the table, and it shows that you are actually not an opportunistic entrepreneur. You are a person who is after the kind of an idea that you want to start. So start to save money. And if you are able to venture into agreement with different companies, venture into those agreements, do collaborations together to make sure that you are upskilling yourself. And then you can look for what we call capital from the investors. You can have investors, because some people, they hold their ideas to themselves. You're not going to do anything when you hold things to yourself. When you are afraid to put your idea outside there, who's going to benefit from that? It means that it will be in you and it will die in you. So it is a time that young people need to know that for you to be able to make money, for you to be able to be successful, for you to be able to build relationships, for you to be able to be a formidable businessman or businesswoman, you need to know that your ideas need to be shared. You share your ideas with people that you know that they will be able to put money on the table, or they will be able to put resources on the table, or they will be able to put advice on the table, so that to take your idea to the upper height. So look for capital from the investors, and you are able to now taking your idea to the people, because the idea is not about you. That idea needs to serve those that God has earmarked for that idea to serve them.
That is so interesting. And so, what does wealth mean to you?
Wow. I remember when we were talking, I was like, wow, it's a fat topic, or, I don't even know how to contextualize it. But I'm going to be zooming into it, looking into the fact that we are talking about businesses. Money will always follow value.
Sure.
Where there's no value, money cannot come, and wealth seek value. So now you need to be a person of value, but rather in the context of business, your idea must be of value, because when you are of a value as a business, the wealth will run after you. So what makes you valuable is the idea that you carry. If you have an idea that you have redefined, like I said earlier on, and the idea that you are dominating, wealth is an idea, and people pursue money, and wealth comes in different dynamics. Wealth comes through the spiritual wealth, being rich towards God. When you are rich towards God, when you are spiritually filled and spiritually led and spiritually wealthy, then we are seeing you as an agent of wealth. You need to not only be spiritually wealthy because your ideas carry value, you also need to be intellectually wealthy. You need to equip yourself. You need to be enriched in your soul, because you can't be a person of a value and become wealthy because of your value. Now, you need to take into consideration that you need to enrich yourself. You need to be a person who is a problem solver. You know that you are a person who is intellectually being fed. You are wealthy intellectually. And the other aspect that we need to look into wealth is social wealth, because you cannot be in isolation. You need to build relationships. You need to have friendships that are strong. You need to have friendships that are taking your dreams to the places the way it needs to be. So you can't be wealthy when you associate yourself with people that are not in the same mindset as you are in. So you need to have the social wealth. You need to connect to people. You need to connect to the society. You need to connect to the community. And you can't separate yourself from the community, because actually wealth, like I say, is a value that you need to take it out there where people need to come. So people need to look for you. And what makes people look for you is the value that you have created. You need to be wealthy in influential in life. You need to have the capacity to change life through your increased value. You need to have the capacity. I want to repeat it: the capacity to change lives through your increased value. Jesus Christ used his influence. Jesus Christ used his power. Jesus Christ used his value. And the man Jesus Christ became the wealthier man even to this day. We are still talking about the things that he was doing. We are still talking about the things that he has done. We are still talking about who he is even today, because Jesus Christ was the man of wealth. He was man of value. He carried the credentials inside of him. That is why today we are resembling him in everything that we do, in everything that we touch. We want to measure ourselves with the standard that Jesus Christ has set for us on this world. So if we want to talk about wealthy, we don't talk about the materialistic things, because we try to put it and to box it into that you have cars, you have everything. Those things are there, but those things cannot sustain you up until the value is created in the inside of you to the outside world that needs to be fed or impacted by the influence of your value. So you need to have the community. You need to improve the lives of other people. You need to solve their problem. We call it a community wealth. Help the poor. You will be rich. These are the things that makes a person to say that this person is wealthy. And the Bible talks that a wise man leaves inheritance for his children. A good man leaves inheritance for his children. When we say we are wealthy, we must also see the generational wealth. As we speak in the biblical terms, we are still called the descendants of Abraham, and we are still called the inheritors of the kingdom of God. We are Bajalifa in the kingdom of God. It means that Jesus Christ has left everything that we need for us to have in this planet Earth.
Sure.
And God wants us to rule this earth, and through us, he will be able to be visible. Therefore, these are the cornerstone of wealth. Is the wealth through the spiritual wealth, being rich with God, the intellectual wealth, the social wealth, and also the physical wealth, taking care of yourself, wealth that influence life of others, capacity to change lives of other people, community wealth, being involved in the community, helping the poor, and the generational wealth that we need to accumulate for the generations to come, as our forefathers have done for us. So I'm very persuaded, Phoebe, that listening is taking place in the heart, and believe that young people are not just hearing, but they are listening. Because when you are hearing takes place in the mind, but what starts is what is in the heart. So I could like that young people, when they are listening to this podcast, they must listen out of their heart. And I pray to God that this word become a revelation of their lives as it enters their heart and affects their mind and change their behavior. Because as I know that in the heart, it is where decisions are made, not in the mind.
Yeah. Wow. Speaking of listening from a place of your heart, what advice do you have for young people that are ready to bring impact and make change in the communities through their business ideas?
Jesus had, or the Lord our God had, a strategy from the beginning of the foundation of the heaven and the earth. He had a strategy, and that strategy was his winning secret on how to execute the plan that he had for the creation that he wanted to bring into surface. So I could like young people to have their strategy on how are they going to dominate in the area of their businesses. And these are the advices or the strategy that I can give to them. And number one being, they must produce something that people can buy and use. That's strategy number one. They must be productive. And the second one, as I add to that, we are told as we learn in different scholars and in different institutions, and as we read journals, business journals and all that, they say that the nation's economy is measured by the nation's growth productivity. So hence I'm saying that young people must be productive, because the more you become productive, it is how your growth will be measured. The input volume, using the resources that we have, and the effort of the output accomplished by using those resources. So it is very, very important that they become productive, because it is where their growth will be measured. And then number two, they must replicate their business idea. They must multiply their idea. And in other words, reproduce it and let it multiply to an extent that we find your idea in every place and in every corner of this country and of this continent. Have that desire to see your idea reaching nations. And it can only be done when you replicate. When a seed is being planted, it's planted once, but this tree is being watered every time. And every time when the season comes, it opens out the leaves and it blossoms and it starts to bear the fruits wherever they are. That will make them wealthy. That will make them to become the dominant people of God in that area of business. And they must refine this idea and develop it to an extent that systems are in place to safeguard their ideas for eternity. They must have multiple businesses that are born from their ideas. This is because, Phoebe, a business cannot grow and it cannot even expand when it is not multiplying itself.
Yeah.
For it to be growing, sustaining itself, expanding itself, replicating itself, it must be able to multiply. what does not multiply, it is subtracting, it goes down. So everything that they do needs to multiply. The other third point that I can touch, when they multiply their business ideas, when they are able to replicate their ideas, they will be able to distribute it everywhere. They must build networks that will distribute their ideas. They must export and be able to feed different types of businesses. So they must distribute their ideas and make sure that they replenish that sector. And I'm left with 2 second points. They must subdue the earth. And when I'm saying subdue the earth, it's biblical in the book of Genesis. Subdue means they must control in that area of business. They must control it. When people talk about a particular business, their business must be in the mouth of every man and every woman and every child in the societies. They must be able to be leaders in this industry. They must subdue this industry. They must dominate and they must control it. When people say that, how can I do this? They must answer them that you can only get there in that kind of that business. So their business must be the first one to be mentioned in the tongues of people. And they must find that niche, and they must be creative and innovative to serve that niche. They must dominate, which is my last point. And when I say dominate, young people who are in business, young entrepreneurs, this speaks to the orientated result. They must get results. When your business becomes first in people's mind, this means that this is the measure of your result, of your success in the business that you are dominating. And people must continuously be in demand of your product and services that you are rendering to this market. And there must be a point where no one else can offer what you are offering. You must monopolize. You must dominate. You must take over. I thank you, Phoebe.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Auntie Angie. You have been a blessing, giving us those tips, telling us where to go to for funding, reminding us that we are called to dominate. Thank you so much. Thank you for honoring this invitation and sharing wisdom.
Yeah, I thank you. And I also thank God for honoring me in this platform. I know that you didn't take it lightly when you decided to invite me to the platform. And I really, really, really appreciate your work, Phoebe. And I wish that may the Lord, who has called you into your own space, the space that He has only put in place for you to be able to take over and to be able to change the type of the society that we are living in today. May this good God continue to also reach you and to also enlighten you in every area that needs to be given as your territory to dominate. And I thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for tuning in. This is Kingdom Wisdom. Join us in next week's episode as we continue to dive deep into purpose. Don't forget to follow, like, share, rate, and leave that comment in the comment section across all our social media platforms, now inclusive of YouTube and TikTok.